All right, let's talk about it. Jon Sumrall is now going to leave New Orleans and head on over to Gainesville. And there's a lot of pissed off Gators fans who said, why are we firing Billy Napier just to go from Lafayette to New Orleans to hire Billy Napier? And it's way more than that. So let's just dive on in. Welcome into the SEC Unfiltered Show. It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we're talking Gators, we're talking college football, we're talking your team daily. Download the podcast version of the show, wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Check out all of our social channels at SEC Unfiltered, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are proudly brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Sign up today, FanDuel.com/SECU. Get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. App is free, simple, easy to use. FanDuel.com/SECU. Let's just get the elephant out in the room. This is a really, really, really smart hire. And any team in college football would be lucky enough to get a coach like Jon Sumrall. He is a proven leader. All he does is he wins, and he puts your team in a better position than it was when you found it. That is just who Jon Sumrall is. Regardless of how you feel about him as a G5 guy, or whether it be that he goes forward, whatever it is, this is what Jon Sumrall does. Look at his track record. As a head coach, he is 42-11. Back-to-back 11-win seasons at Troy. Back-to-back 9+ win seasons at Tulane. Tulane is in the hunt for the college football playoff. They had one of the most dynamic offenses this past year. And on top of that, they lost over 40 players to the transfer portal in the NFL draft, brought in 50 new names, and did not miss a beat. That is who you're getting in Jon Sumrall at Florida. Now, here's the problem. It's because it's not Lane Kiffin, number one, and number two, it feels like Scott Striklin just settled. That is why a lot of people are pissed off, and I can get that. Now, I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of Florida, and then we're going to talk about it from the perspective of Jon Sumrall. Florida decided to do one of the dumbest things that I have ever seen in a coaching search from the very get-go. They put all of their eggs in one basket, and it was the Lane Kiffin Express. You had fans, you had boosters, you had colleagues, you had countless people saying, we are going to get Lane Kiffin. He is coming to Florida. He is going to be the next head coach for the Gators. The head ball coach signed off on it, and everybody is in the same agreement. So you already put down your mechanisms, and you squared the box so tight to where it ended up not working out, which clearly it didn't by Friday morning. You were going to be left with an option of panic mode. And so Scott Striklin allowed this to happen, which ultimately led to where fans started to get distraught. They were bringing up how this is a joke of a hire. This is a joke of an offseason. Now we're going to be stuck with somebody we don't want. And so automatically, it's a failure because of you didn't get the guy that you put everything towards to be the next head coach of Florida. Now, here's the other thing. I have spoken to people around the Florida program. I've spoken to people in the greater area about names who were mentioned. And the first thing that I continuously heard to come on up was Scott Striklin was behind the hiring and behind all of this. And the names that were mentioned would probably be better in terms of the public eye for Florida fans than Jon Sumrall. But Scott Striklin did not want them to become the next head coach of Florida. So Scott Striklin is basically maneuvering behind closed doors to guarantee that he is getting his guy to lead the program. And ultimately, it ended up being Jon Sumrall. Names that were mentioned, Jedd Fisch was one, Lincoln Riley was one, Brent Key was one. I heard that Jeff Brom was mentioned a few times. Few other names that were really, really kind of dark horses to get on. And Eli Drinkers was not one of them, by the way. So I'll just throw that out there just because I've got that on good record and authority. There were names that would have been brought up to the Florida gig that feels like it would have been a smart hire. But Scott Striklin did not want any of them. He wanted to go ahead and make a move that he believed was going to better the team for the long haul. And lo and behold, he got that when it came to going after Jon Sumrall. Now, let's flip it all over to the Jon Sumrall perspective of things. For Jon Sumrall, this is going to be a tough hire. And this is going to be a really tough situation to go into. And to be completely transparent, I don't know why you took the job. And I'm not saying this because I don't think that Florida is a bad job. I think Florida is a top 10 job in college football. I think that with the right coach at the helm, it can be right back in the conversation to go to the college football playoff, win SEC titles, maybe even become a national championship contender. But you're already seeing the backlash and the vitriol online of how people are responding to the move. And you know what? Credit to you. You still are sticking to your guns and you're saying, I'm going to come into Florida and I'm going to turn this program around and be for the better. But there's a job currently out in Oxford, Mississippi, where their team just got to the college football playoff. Their team is about ready to lose its coach, but needs to be able to stabilize the roster, a place that you've coached before. and they wanted you. Like, they would have welcomed you with open arms and say, hey, listen, you're not the guy that we wanted to be here for the long haul, but we're more than happy to welcome you back home, brother. Like, that's the case. Now you're getting the repugnant comments and disdain, horrendous version of Florida fans booing you before you even arrive. So it's a tough look. It is. Now, here's what I will say. I think that Jon Sumrall is cut from the right cloth, and he comes from a defensive background to where you already have a good foundation in place on the defensive side, and he is going to let the offense run rampant. He is going to fix the overall identity of what this offense needs to be. And on top of that, one thing that I think is going to be really poignant here is he is going to make sure that he retains as much talent as possible. Now, does that include DJ Lagway? I don't think so. I think that there's probably a good conversation that's being had right now. We're going to go in a different path. We're going to get a new quarterback. We wish you nothing but the best. There is a place for you in college football to where you can have success. It just will not be here at Florida anymore. Now, I do think that he will keep Jaden Baugh. I think that Jaden Baugh is a priority signing for anybody out there. Having a 1,000-yard season on Saturday with the massive win over Florida State, that is where you probably earned at least an extra $1 million when it comes to NIL funds to guarantee that your spot on the roster is safe. I think that he will try to keep Vernell Brown and Dallas Wilson. I think that he will try to keep several of the up-and-coming offensive linemen, and I think that he will try to keep Caleb Banks. I think that those are non-negotiables that are going to have to be. Scott Striklin says we will pay whatever with the NIL collective to make sure that those guys are back in the saddle. So you have a good foundation in place. The other thing is that I think that you're going to have to be really transparent and look into the transfer portal this offseason to fix your team, because you're going to lose a lot of names, whether that be because of veteranship like Jake Slaughter going off to the NFL, or whether it be the transfer portal. You're going to want to get a fresh start elsewhere. You just finished 4-8 last season. You got to go ahead and hit reset. You're going to be very transparent on trusting the portal to kind of backload your roster and put yourself in a better position to where you can be somewhat successful in 2026. And somewhat successful, in my opinion, means 7-5, 8-4. And that should be just generation. That should just be guaranteed standard at Florida. You should never be finishing below 7-5. That's just my entire notion of it. If you're going to be a top 10 job, that should be a non-negotiable even for a first-year coach, especially with what you have with resources. I also think that you have to look at the current staff that's in place there behind the scenes. Nutrition staff, complex staff, recruiting staff. Because if they did a lot of good things with Billy Napier, and the thing that really kind of just derailed Billy's tenure was his inability to run the offense. Like, if he just was so focused on being a head coach and let somebody else come on in with the money that they gave him and said, go out and hire an OC, I think that Billy probably would have retained his job for another year. Because number one, we would have seen a completely different offense. And number two, I think that they would have been better than 4-8. I think they would have been at least 7-5 or 8-4. And if that was the case with their schedule, they would have been able to kick the can down the road for another season and say, we're gonna do this instead. So when you look at this, you got to look at the staff, recruiting, people behind closed doors, NIL collectives, boosters, people that you know are very much still a part of Florida and want to stay at Florida, and say, you guys were able to bring in premier talent. Can you do that with me? And if they say yes, let them keep their jobs. Because I do think that Florida, from a compository standpoint, was a top 15 roster in college football this year. They just had the wrong guy driving the bus. Jon Sumrall may be the right guy to drive the bus. The other thing that you're going to have to look for in this standpoint is making sure that you're able to go to boosters and say, this is the reality of where we are as a program. These are non-negotiables that we have to fix our team for the better. These are not things that I'm asking for. These are things I'm requiring to guarantee that we are going to remain focused in on the college football playoff hunt. That's just it. So if you do not have those direct state-of-the-art things that are guaranteed to help you win, which you have at Alabama, which you have at LSU, which you have at Georgia, then automatically change your opinion on how this track record is supposed to go. You've already lost before you begun. All of those things are just details in the next several weeks that Jon Sumrall is going to have to accomplish to feel like that the team has done anything to trend upward. Now, let's go back to the entire conversation about Florida fans and Jon Sumrall. Guys, if Jon Sumrall was the head coach at Louisville, you would be ecstatic. If Jon Sumrall was the head coach at USC, you would be elated. If Jon Sumrall was the head coach at Missouri, if Jon Sumrall was the head coach at UCLA, if he was the head coach at any Power 4 program, you would love the hire. I can almost guarantee it. There's two reasons you hate the hire. You fired a Sun Belt Billy coach to bring in an ACC Summerall coach. And number two, you brought in the coach from New Orleans when you just fired a coach from Lafayette. Like, that's it. It's a G5 move. And you feel like that you're better than the G5 standard. Well, at this point, do not be upset with the guy that you hired. Be upset with the administration. Be upset with the way that they went about this coaching search. Be upset with the way that they put all their eggs in the Lane Kiffin basket and then said, here, we're promising you something that we know we can't meet. That's what you need to be upset about. And I think that Florida fans have every right to be mad at Scott Striklin and every right to be frustrated with their team because you're Florida. You at one point were viewed as a pinnacle staple of college football. And now you're kind of just the laughingstock. That's just it. You can't get a hire right. You can't ever bring in the right coach. You constantly are living in the past and you can't find the guy to come on in to replace Urban Meyer and bring in that same legacy. And you're not really moving upward. You're just kind of staying idle. One great 9-10 win season, followed by an 8-win season, followed by a 6-win season, followed by a 4-win season. And it's been this way for a while. Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Dan Mullen, who, again, Dan Mullen did a lot of good things, I think, for Florida, but he didn't get along with boosters, and he didn't really care about recruiting. So that hurt his track record in so many different ways. Billy Napier, you can't nail the hire. You can't find the right head coach, and it's constantly living in a world of, well, here we are when it comes to the overall mediocrity that we are as a program. That's just kind of the case. So when I look right now at where we are when it comes to this, you can go ahead and hate on Jon Sumrall all you want. He's not going anywhere. He's your next head coach. Deal with it. That's my only answer for you. Be upset at Scott Striklin. Be upset at the administration for not taking this coaching search more seriously. Be upset with the outlook of boosters that were trying to pressure Lane Kiffin into giving them an answer when he wasn't ready to go ahead and answer it at all. And be upset that, again, you put everything into the Lane Kiffin conversation without doing your due diligence of looking elsewhere. That's it. And I see this comment here. UT got Shiano removed. Guys, unless Scott Striklin is being fired as the athletic director today, Jon Sumrall is going to be your next head coach. You can go ahead and go to the message boards. You can pull a Texax thing, what you did with the Mark Stoops conversation. But unless Scott Striklin is fired today, you are not going to have a new head coach. Jon Sumrall will be running the show in Gainesville in 2026. Can't say what happens afterwards because the new athletic director is probably going to come on in for 2027. But that's just the bottom line. The people that you're supposed to be frustrated at and you're taking your anger out on is probably steered in the wrong direction. Take it all off of Jon Sumrall. Come in with a blank canvas with him. Let him prove that he is not the guy. Let him prove that he is not the person. Let him prove that he is struggling to make the transition to the Power 4 level. By all means, do that. Give him that chance. But be done with Scott Striklin. Be done with the current administration. Be done with how they handled all of this behind closed doors and figure out how is there a way to guarantee that we, supporting Florida fans, and us who are writing checks to the NIL collective and us who are funneling in money to our university will not pay another dime until we see a new athletic director come into the building. That's just it. That is where the frustration should be. I do not know if Jon Sumrall is going to be a good hire or a bad hire. I don't. I do not know if Jon Sumrall is going to end up being a name that eventually turns the tides and brings Florida back to national prominence. But I'm giving him a shot. And I believe that there are a billion other I believe that there are countless other programs right now in the world of college football that would love Jon Sumrall to be their head coach. And Florida got him. And if he wasn't just 135 miles up the road from where you hired your last head coach and he wasn't a G5 name, you probably would like the hire too. But unfortunately, this is the world of college football that you live in, is that you put everything into one conversation, one non-negotiable, and at the end of the day, the administration couldn't deliver the goods. So now you got to go ahead and hope that the guy they did bring in is going to prove you wrong. Make sure that you have egg on your face and you end up loving him by the time that we're at an end. All right, let's get to the comment section before we get on out of here. Been a rough weekend for UT fans, but at least we're not Florida. I love this hire. I really do. I think this is a very good hire. I do understand why Florida fans are very much upset. Nothing like hiring Napier 2.0. Nothing like firing Napier to hire Napier 2.0, who lost to Napier 33-8. Again, if you want to go that pathway, I get you, Tim. I really do. See you, Sunbelt Billy. Hello, AAC John. Yeah. Mary, bad move. I don't think it's a bad move. I think that it's a non-negotiable move that was made because of you put into a situation where Scott Striklin took on over a coaching search and made it clear we're getting Lane Kiffin, and then you didn't get Lane Kiffin. And then you had opportunities to go after other proven names in college football and guys who were really, really good fits and guys who somewhat had ties to the program and said, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Like, I don't understand why Jedd Fisch was not getting that phone call. Jedd Fisch is a Florida guy. He is a guy that that worked underneath Steve Spurrier. He's the guy that loves the state of Florida. Not an option. Lincoln Riley. If Lincoln Riley really wanted the job, they probably should have gotten it. But unfortunately, you had Scott Striklin pulling the chains behind closed doors to where it ended up not working out. So a lot of things that happen all because of the athletic department and what they envision in the next Florida coach, and they didn't take their fans into consideration. And sometimes you got to do that. Like, sometimes you got to be willing to look at the fan base and say, we're going to give you what you want. And we're going to give you an opportunity to say, we put all of our faith that you guys were right and that we don't know what we're talking about. But when it backfires, you don't get to have a say in the next hire. That was it. That's kind of where we are. So I don't know what else to tell you. Unfortunately, it's the hire that was made. I think it's a good one, but I know there's going to be a lot of Florida fans that don't agree with me. All of y'all wanted Lane, but he had not won the national championship. It's only 3 coaches who have won the national championship. Go find a new team. Robert, I'm guessing that you either like the hire or don't like the hire. What I will tell you is I don't have a good gauge on the hire. I think that Jon Sumrall is a great coach. I think that Lane Kiffin is probably not worth $14 million per year, but that was the going rate. Everyone wanted to go ahead and get Lane Kiffin. That was just kind of it. Riley wanted nothing to do with the SEC. He had an SEC job, and he ran away to USC. Riley was very much in the conversation for the Florida job. I can tell you that right now. I can put that on record. He was very much looking to get to the Florida gig, and Scott Striklin was not interested. That was what I was told. Scott Striklin was the one who nixed the opportunity to make this a hire. So that's where we were. Lane Kiffin is about to take half a stop with him on a plane. Yep, that's probably the reality of the situation. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens next with that program. All right, before we get on out of here, make sure that you go ahead and like the video, hit the ring notification, and let me tell you about my friends over at FANDUEL. FANDUEL.com/SECU is the perfect place to sign on up and betting on win totals for next season, Florida Gators football. Let's say the win total going into next year for Jon Sumrall and company is 5.5, and you believe that they're going to win 7 games. Well, place down your money. $5, all it takes, win that bet. And this time next year, when we're talking about Florida maybe being in the hunt for the college football playoff, or better yet, being in the hunt for an SEC title game, they can go ahead and cash in $300. So the app is free. It's simple. It's easy to use. Same game parlays, player props, whatever tickles your fancy. Now is the perfect time to sign it up with college basketball in full swing, the NFL in full swing, the NBA in full swing, and countless others. Now is the perfect place. FanDuel.com/SECU, the official betting partner of the NBA. All right, Jon Sumrall is the next head coach of Florida. Do we like the hire? Do we not like the hire? Comment down below. I have a very good feeling that we know where most people are going to stand on this one. I do not know if it's going to work. I do think that it is a very smart hire, though. So until next time, we will talk to you guys later tonight and whenever we have the conversation on Lane Kiffin. I'm Cole Thompson. Peace.